All right. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. All right. All right. We just had the day of Teruah. But I want to say welcome everyone to Torah teaching on tonight. We won't be long on tonight. You'll notice that on our Facebook and YouTube channel, I'm doing small bits of teaching leading up to the Day of Atonement. That's where we are right now. We're going through the 10 days from the first day of the seventh month to the 10th day of the seventh month, which is Day of Atonement, or Day is Yom Atonement, Kippur, Kippurium. So we're moving towards that day. So some of the things that I wanted to say to us collectively, I've just been doing individually on, and I hope you've been picking it up on Facebook and YouTube and Adaya. I mean, did I say that right? Adaya? Adaya. She commented. She commented on there, and which is good. Just put your comments in there. Like it. If you hear the teaching, and it's ministering to your spirit. That's what we have to do. We have to minister to your spirit. You have to. We are a trichotomy, and trichotomy means we're body, soul, and spirit. And what he does is, and what he's trying to get out of us is that spiritual ministry, the spiritual feeding, and then you worshiping him in spirit and in truth. So in Yahuchanan chapter 4 and verse 22, and I'm going to read down to verse 24. Ye worship, ye know not what. We know what we worship, for salvation or soteria is of the Yahudim. But the hour cometh, and now is, when the true worshipers shall worship the Abba in spirit and in truth. Why? For Abba seeketh such to worship him. Now this is Yahusha the Son speaking and telling us that Abba wants us to worship him. He wants to be worshiped. He wants to be worshiped in spirit and in truth. And verse 24, Elohim is a Ruach, and they that worship him must worship in spirit and in truth. And so your spirit is that inner man. You're made up of spirit, Ruach. You're made up of soul, and you're made up of body, this tissue, this material. You're made up of that. And so when he ministers unto us, you got the outer shell, the human body, the body. What's underneath that body is your soul. And then the inner part of you is your spirit, your Ruach. And that's where he's targeting. Because in your spirit is where you're going to have communion with him. Why would I say you're going to have communion with him in your spirit? Why would I say that? Because it's right up here. Why would he say your communion with him is going to be in your spirit, not your soul? Now, y'all know what they say about, oh man, they got soul. We're going to eat some soul food. Y'all, you hear about that, right? Soul, because soul, and when you look at our soul, we're very emotional with the soul. See, we get things confused. We get the spirit confused with emotion. We get the spirit confused with truth. We get he's spiritually led. We get that confused with rejoicing and emotions. Because whenever you see somebody full of emotions, and my goodness, we are very emotional. And there's a reason why we're emotional. Because of, if you look at our plight, if you look at our lives, if you look at where we come from, we are very emotional creatures. And that's how we express ourselves. But he's gone deeper than your emotion. He goes deeper than you. I mean, he wants us to worship him in music and praise. He says, let everything that have breath praise him. And all of that is in order. But he's targeting your spirit. He's getting down into that ruach, because that's where you have to worship him. That's where you have to connect with him. That's where you have to have that consciousness, that community with him, that communion with him is in your ruach. Why? Why would you say that? Why would I say that? And it's right up here. Elohim is a spirit. Elohim is a ruach. He's ruach. He's not flesh. He's not bones. He ain't running around here in his emotions like you are. He ain't dealing like that. He don't roll like that. He don't get down like that. It's in your ruach, and it's in your ruach, in your spirit, that's deeper than your heart, that's deeper than your emotions, that's deeper than your soul. We go to Hebrews 4 and 12. For the debar, or the word of Elohim, is quick, which means it's alive. And it's powerful, sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing, now listen to this, piercing even to the dividing asunder of what? Soul and spirit. He cuts through your soul to get to your ruach, because it's in your ruach where your book is being written. So he cuts through your emotions. He cuts through your, even it says of Esau. Esau sought him with what? And couldn't get right. Couldn't get right. That bitter tears was in his soul. Like many of us, we come to the altar. We cry out unto him. We're emotionally caught up. He cuts through that. And what does he cut through with it? His Torah. His Torah cuts through and separates the soul from the spirit, because he's dealing with your ruach. He wants to be down and further than your soul. We always talk about, I want it down in my soul. No, he wants your spirit. He wants your spirit, because it's in your spirit where you have communion with him. Because Elohim's a spirit. Elohim's a spirit. Elohim ain't walking around here with all these emotions. You got some folks, man, they change like the weather. It was sunny out today, then it was cloudy, got a little rain, all within one. You got some folks that's like that. They start the day off, I thought you was happy today. That was this morning. Afternoon, you ready to bite somebody's head off. Then in the evening, you crying. Then at night, I can't sleep. Probably because you got so much on your conscience. In your spirit, you got so much there that you can't get no night's rest. It bothers me sometimes, because I lay up at night thinking about this body. Thinking about y'all, thinking about the Torah, the word, thinking about, is it reaching, is it working? And then I see a whole bunch of stuff. And I said, well, it ain't working on them. I want to say this, your growth with Yah is your application of Torah. If you know how to apply this word and this Torah to your life, to where it gets into your ruach, in your spirit, to where you can commune with him. That's where we take up and that's where he's going to take up his habitation. Your body is the tabernacle, or the tent. And we're coming up to tabernacle. It's a tent. That's where you dwell. He says he wants to be in that tent. He's getting in the tabernacle. He ain't getting on the tabernacle. He's getting in the tabernacle. He's getting down into the spirit, because that's how we worship him. I can't worship him with a dirty spirit. You can't worship him in truth, and your thoughts ain't right. Your desires ain't right. Because we're coming up on atonement, and we got to get all this stuff. We fasted and praying. I hope y'all fasted and praying. We fasted and praying, because the day of atonement is coming, and it's a day that should never be forgotten. He says, my days are memorial. They're a memorial unto you. You got some folks, steeplechasers, and they say, oh, that was done away with. How could it be done away when he says it's an everlasting covenant? How do you have an everlasting covenant? Because see, they're not worshiping in Ruach, because if you're worshiping in Ruach, in your spirit, you have understanding of Yah. I better put that back up here. Okay, well, dividing asunder of soul and spirit, Ruach. He can divide, he separate. When he starts to deal with you, he ain't looking at your emotions. Because you got some folks think, I'm going to cry my tears into heaven. No, you ain't. No, you ain't. You can cry all day long. You got some folks that is so emotional. I see it so often. They just so emotional. They just so emotional. What about your spirit? Because it's in your ruach that starts to bring the worship unto him. And it says in truth. So when he gets down into your spirit and you start worshiping in your spirit, you walk in truth. I don't have a problem with Torah. I don't have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with everlasting. I don't have a problem with a covenant. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with, okay, remember, the trumpet was blowing. We blew the trumpet, Feast of Teruah. And I told y'all, I said before 2023, I said Pesach 2023, everything is going to go off the rails after Pesach 2023. The condition of the world now and the direction that the world is going, we're so close. When this country and this economy and everything falls apart, it's going to go down like a pancake. And you're going to have so many people caught up in their emotions. They're not going to be able to make it. They're not going to be able to make it. I'm going to finish up this verse because I want to roll. Because I want to hear him get done. I don't want to be here too long. The joints in the marrow and is a discerner of the thoughts and the intent of the heart. He gets down past the bone and the moral of the bone. He gets to the intent of the heart. He knows your intent. Well, I haven't done anything yet, but it's in your heart. It's in your heart. We got folks can't even love one another. And when they do say, oh, it ain't that I don't like him. It ain't that I don't love him. He knows the intent. He knows the intent. He gets down. You talk about down and dirty? Oh, yeah, he's getting all the way down with it. You ain't fooling him. In Ezekiel, Yekazakal 11:5, he says, I know your thoughts as they're what? Let me pull that one up. We got to pull that one up. Put this one up there. Yekazakal, which the world calls Ezekiel. Yekazakal 11 and verse number 5. And the Ruach of Yahuwah fell upon me and said unto me, and this is the prophet speaking, speak, and this is what I want you to say. Thus saith Yahuwah, you have said, thus have ye said, O house of Yasharal, for I know the things that come into your mind, every one of them. That's the intent. That's the intent of the heart. That's the intent of your mind. He knows your thoughts, and that's why he can concern and divide. He knows the thoughts and the intent of the heart. He knows it before you even think of it. And he knows liars, and he's going to bust them out. Revelation 21:8. I'm trying to hurry up. He gonna bust out these liars. He's got a place for these liars. Oh, I don't like them. You know you don't. He knows the intent of the heart. I don't mind people disagreeing with me. I don't like to be disrespected. You can disagree all day long. Don't disrespect me. Don't disrespect my position. But the fearful and unbelieving. I'm going to say some hard things. I don't know if everybody's going to roll tonight. Some folks might get off. The fearful and unbelieving and the abominable and murderers and whoremongers and sorcerers and idolaters and all liars, all of them, shall have their part in the lake of fire, which burneth with fire and brimstone, which is the second death. And you know what? You know when a lot of people lie? I'm going to tell you when a lot of people lie. There's 3 events in your life when people lie. At birth, when somebody is born, folks lie. Coming into the world, you bring a child into the world, man or woman. Oh, I'm going to be true. I'm going to be doing all this. I'm going to be faithful. I'm going to do lying. Because the intent of your heart wasn't right. Down in your ruach, you wasn't right. At birth, at marriage, you lie. How can you stand there and say those vows? Till death I do part. You liar. And the other one is at death. Folks lie at death. They come up in the synagogue, in the assembly, in the house, in the sanctuary, and tell lies. From the pulpit all the way down. And I know I'm about to hear some lies. See, I know people don't like me already. So it ain't going to be no loss to me because you don't like me already. So it shouldn't matter what I say anyway. But you'll have folks lying, and I'm going to listen to them lies. I'm going to listen to them lies. And then they always give a spot for people to stand up and say something. Yeah. And you know good and well in your heart. Because, see, he knows how to look at that ruach, the intent of the heart. That's where he's looking at. See, we're looking at the outward side. We're looking at folks crying, tears. Bunch of liars. I got to move on. Because I'm about to say something, and I'm about to say something. Can't care for folks when they're alive, but you want to show up when they're dead. And then woof and sell tickets at the gate. But you know what? It's just crooked Christians. They just crooked Christians. I wouldn't have the audacity to show up in somebody else's house and walk up here like I'm taking over. No, let me get on. Let me get on with my Bible class. Help me, Father. Help me, Abba. I'm the watchman up here.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And pour my heart out and y'all's money. Yes, sir. To help folk. So let's get into our Bible class. Let's get into our Bible class. So we're, yep. Because he would call them out, though. Oh, man, he called them liars, thieves, robbers, no good. Get out of here. There's, how did he say it? 4 doors. Or, no, it was 8, wasn't it? 2, 4, 6, 8. Find one of them. That's what he would say. So in our class on tonight, and this deals with a lot of it because if you're a liar, you're not going to make the kingdom. In Leviticus chapter 16, so you got to deal with a lot of crooked folks in your life. You just got to deal with them. And I'm going to be judged, and I've said this before, I'm going to be judged on what I say and do. That's how I'm going to be judged. I'm not going to be judged, and you are not going to be judged by me. You're going to be judged by what is written in your book. That goes in your book. So what's in my book is how did you respond? Because a lot of times he gives you tests. Let me see what's going to happen here. Let me throw that in there, see how he responds. There was a lying spirit. And when you go to, is it 2 Kings? I think it's 2 Kings. Yeah, to Jehovah. There was a spirit up in the shaman. He said, I'll be a lying spirit. Go down there and show them people. Tell them a lying spirit. And so you got people who, now the lying spirit, Jehoshaphat did not, and I think it was Ahab, wasn't it? Jehoshaphat and Ahab, they did not hear that lying spirit. They heard the mouth of a man. The prophets spoke unto them. They heard the man, but it was a lying spirit that was in them. Because Abba Yah can send a lying spirit. You can't play with Abba Yah. He'll put a lying spirit in these folks. And I already know, I've already heard lies. And like my pastor would say, here she lies. Whoever she belongs to, what do you say? Come and get her. Hello, how you doing? Shalom, shalom. Whoever she belongs to, come and get her. Isn't that what he said? and see that's something that we need to understand. Because most of these preachers get up here and it's full of lies. And we think they're untouchable. So he says here in Leviticus 16:33, Leviticus 16:33, and he shall make an atonement for the holy sanctuary. And he shall make an atonement for the tabernacle of congregation and for the altar, and he shall make an atonement for the priest and for all the people of the congregation. And this shall be an everlasting statute unto you, to make an atonement for the children of Yasharah. For what? Why is he making atonement for them? For what? All their sins. That's the gravity of this day. The gravity of this day that we are approaching is for us to memorialize and remember and be obedient that the blood atoned for all my sins. And we can name a lot of sins. We can name a lot of them. Because even Yahusha, when they brought that woman to her, he says, you that doesn't have any sin, you cast the first stone. Don't y'all know there was some Levites there? Some priests? Because we think men, and when I look at men in positions of leadership, because that's where I'm at, and you don't realize how easy it is sometimes to just fall or sin. Because we think we put people up there on those pedestals and we idolize them and we make them icons and we get connected to a man that is capable of sinning and get our eyes off of Abba Yah and his Torah and what he does to cover your sin. Because we're so connected. We're connected to people. We're connected to one another. We're made up of body, soul, and spirit. And the physical part of us and the soul part of us is connected more so than the spirit and the Ruach. Because if you're working in the Ruach or the spirit of the Most High Yah, for one thing, you love your brother. I can't hate. Not if I'm... It says in Romans, the 8th chapter, it says those who are led by the Ruach are the what? Sons of Elohim. If I'm led by the Ruach, then I'm a son of Elohim. He told me I have to love my brother. I have to love my sister. Even though they might spite you, you still love them. Still love them. I'm trying to think of somebody I hate. Now, there could be some people I hate. I don't want to be like, don't look at me like, hey, this dude can't fall. No. I can fall. In fact, something that I got to get out of me as we go through this fasting and praying and leading up to the Day of Atonement, I noticed it the other day when I was out in traffic. And I was out in traffic, and I'm fasting, and I'm tired, and I was getting irritated because I'm human. I'm not a God. I'm human. And you know how easy it is when you're out in traffic and you're trying to get in your lane or you're trying to get out in traffic and everything. And so here I am doing that, and here comes this truck burling down the street. And it looks like he was picking up speed because he seen me try to get out there in the traffic. And I said, man, this dude's going to hit me. So I just stopped and just let him go. Well, when I stopped and just let him go, he put his hand out the window and, gave me the signal. And I got on my horn. And I looked at him, and I could tell he was a thin person. I looked at him. I could break you. I went back to my 20s and 30s. But I noticed that rose up in me. I said, oh, man, can't do that. I can't be like that. I can't have that kind of rage come out of me just because somebody does that to you. And it was kind of preparing me because people are going to take shots at you. But you're going to be judged on the things that you say and the things that you do. So when a situation like that, and I know in my younger days, I probably would have tried to follow him. I remember one time we was in high school, and I was running around with the boys, and we had some dudes, and they was in their car, and we was in our car, and they called out, and they called us out of our name. And, it was like, hey, it's on. Hey, we're going to get down, And so I almost went back to that time period in my life because he had to show me what was in me. He had to show me what was in me. So, I'm not infallible. I have to work this thing out like you. I ain't no different from you. I'm just a teacher and a feeder. I ain't no different. I have to work this thing out. And I said, oh, man, I can't be like that. I started apologizing to Yah. So this Day of Atonement is coming, and it's to atone for all the sins of Yasharal. This book is written to Yasharal. It's written to a people that had a covenant with the Most High Yah. That's who this book is written to. It's written to a covenant people. And because his covenant people has broken the everlasting covenant, it has brought judgment on the whole earth. It's brought judgment. All right. And we allow people to lead us into breaking this covenant. Isaiah 24 and verse number 5. Isaiah 24 and 5. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, and broken the everlasting covenant. So when we are to remember this day, you have people leading you into the path of, I don't know why y'all even do that. We don't have to do that anymore. There's no remembering of Israel's transgressions. There's no remembering of Israel breaking the covenants. In fact, we go into buildings and they instruct you and tell you there is no covenant. There is no law. And like Shaul, who's Paul, says in Romans, and I think it's the 5th chapter, but somebody can look it up. But he says, where there's no law, there's no what? Where there's no law, there's no. What did Shaul say in Romans? Is it the 2nd chapter? Oh, where there's no law, there's no. And maybe somebody knows it in the chat, but it's in Romans 2, 3, 4, 5, somewhere around. 4:15? Is it 4:15? Yes, that's it. So he says what? In Romans 4:15, because the law worketh, and you know what? We have a misunderstanding of wrath. We have a misunderstanding of, in Hebrews it says we're not appointed unto wrath. Remember it says that? We're not appointed unto wrath because the law worketh wrath. That, and especially when it says we're not appointed unto wrath. When I gave you that example of that road rage that I ran into, he's saying, you're not appointed unto wrath. Why are you getting angry? Why you got that road rage? Why is that coming out? You're not appointed unto that. I should have been able to deal with that. Even if he gave me the signal, I should be able to deal with that. I think Yahusha withstood more than that. I think I ain't shed no blood yet. But I think he endured more than that than somebody giving me the signal. So the Torah is telling me you're not appointed unto wrath. That's not becoming of you. See, we look at that and people bring that verse out and they say, see, his bride is not appointed unto wrath. And that's not what that verse is dealing with. He's talking about wrath shouldn't be becoming unto you. You shouldn't have to. By now, being around here for 30-some years, I should be able to overcome that. I shouldn't be appointed unto wrath. I should have been able to take that. I should be able to take more than that. Because I'm not appointed unto wrath. I shouldn't have. So we have the wrong idea. A lot of times we look at, especially in that verse in Hebrews, see there? The church is not appointed unto wrath. He ain't going to give the church a black eye before he marries them. That's not Torah. That's not Torah. Because the law worketh wrath. So where is that wrath coming from? It's coming from us. Because nobody wants to be under the law. Oh, all you got to do is go into the steeplechasers on the first day of the week. They'll tell you, we ain't got no law. Ain't no law around here. We ain't under no law. Because the law brings out the wrath in you. It makes you, man. And I was thinking the other day, folks are scared of the law. Whenever you say law in the church, folks are scared of it. It scares them, which makes me think they must be heathen. Because those who are Yasharel, they're not afraid of the law. The law doesn't intimidate them. They know the law is a covenant that we said, I do. Just like a lot of folks say they do, and they really don't. On Mount Sinai, we told Moses, whatever Yah says unto you, we will do. Yeah. Just don't have him speak to us, have him speak to you. But we're gonna do whatever he says now. So we're the ones that said it and then entered into that transgression. So it says, for where no law is, there's no what? Because sin is the transgression of the law. In First Yahuchanan 3 and 4. So if I take away the law, I take away what? I heard somebody, what? I take away transgressions. If I take away that law, I take away transgressions. Whosoever committeth sin transgresseth also the law, for sin is the transgression of the law. So if I can take away law, I can take away transgression, or I can take away sin. And that's why you see, and it's becoming more prevalent now. In the Roman Catholic construct of Christianity, it's becoming more prevalent now. You're also going to see transgender folks up there. There's already in the apostolic ranks a homosexual pastor with another man, a man with a man. There's already women with women. It's already going on now. It's already going, because they said there is no law. They'll tell you, we're not under the law of Moses. That was done away with. The law of Moses says a man should not lie with mankind as he does with womankind. If you're going to lie down with somebody, it should be a woman. So they said, oh, that was then, this is now. Oh, I've heard it. I've heard it. This is now. So what they've done is they've taken away the law to give them excuse for that behavior. Oh, a man could be with a man. A woman could be with a woman. They could be transgender. They can get their nuts cut off. Because he says in Torah, well, we got a little kids here. So, because it says in Torah, that one slipped out. I'm sorry. It says in Torah that if a man loses his privy parts, he can't even get in the tabernacle. You can't get in. You get your stuff cut off, you can't get in. That's book. And so they're just saying, well, let's take away that law, because if we take away that law, you can't call me out on no transgressions. I can lie, steal, rape, rob, murder, idolatry, fornicate. I can do all that because there's no law. But not in this book. Not in this book. So when he says that he has to cleanse, he has to atone. He has to atone. I heard somebody speaking the other day and talking about the branch. And I should have took some notes and everything, because what Yahusha was, when it says he was the branch, and if you go into the type of branch and what he was talking about and everything, and how what he does is he protects. He protects the seed. He protects it so that outside, anything outside that will damage it or kill it or stop it from growing, he protects it. And that's what he does with us, is he has to cover us and protect us. Because when we talk about our sins being taken away, because right now he's atoned for us. Because I know a lot of people don't believe it, but Romans 5 and 11, and not only so, but we also joy in Elohim through our Adonai Yahushua Mashiach, by whom we now have received the atonement, the covering. He's covering us to protect us from sin, to protect us from, he covers a young lady to protect her from them men out there and boys out there that comes up with all that talk, with all the gold, with all the gold in their grill. Some of our sisters and daughters are attracted to a lot of the stuff that the world has to offer, especially in our artisans and stuff. They're attracted to those who are gangbangers. They're attracted to that. But what Yahusha has done, when he's atoned for us, he's put that covering over us to protect us from the outside influences that will come in to destroy the soul. What did the devil say? What did the thief say? Well, Yahusha said it in Yochanan 10:10. He says, the thief cometh not but to steal, kill, and destroy. That's why he came. That's why he's here. I want to steal him, kill him, and destroy him. So when Mashiach has atoned for us, he's covering us. He's covering us. Because as long as you're in this flesh, you have the ability to sin. But when he covers you, he's protecting you to where you don't have to sin. And we've heard that before. You get to that level, that maturity in him, you don't have to sin. I don't have to sin. I don't have to go down like that. I don't have to go out like that. I don't have to get down like that. Because he's covering me. And this is the day that we're waiting for. And that's why we should always be remembering this day of atonement in Romans 11:25, because he is our atonement. He atones for us. But 11:25, this is what we're waiting on. I'm going to start at 25, but I'm going to read down to 27. For I would not, brethren, that ye should be ignorant of this mystery, lest ye should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part is happened to Yasharel until the fullness of the Gentiles be come in. So Yasharel was blinded, but now he's waking them up. He's waking up Yasharel, which lets you know the fullness of the Gentiles is upon us. And they like to call it the end of the world. Actually, it's the end of an age, and we're getting ready to start a new age. It's the end of their world. Their world. It's the end of their world. But it's going to be a new day, a new age, and he's coming to set up his kingdom here on earth. He's coming to, but let's keep reading. And so at the fullness of the Gentiles, and so all Yasharel shall be saved, those who are in Yasharel, those who are Israelites that are being obedient unto Torah. Those who are being obedient unto Torah. Remind me, I want to come back to this. As it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. He's going to come and turn away ungodliness from Jacob, because he's going to meet with them, as we read in Yekasakal, Ezekiel. He's going to meet with them face to face. He's going to deal with them face to face. And it says in Acts 17 and 31, 30 and 31, we all have an appointment with them. That's what he said in Acts 17, 31. We all have an appointment with them. You're going to have to meet him. And the books are going to be open. It says that in Revelation. He's going to open up the books. What's the books he's opening up? Your life. Everything that is written in your life. That's going to be opened up, and he's going to judge. Then verse 27, for this is my covenant unto them when I shall take away their sins. Right now, the atonement, he's there to put sin in remission. And that's what he said in Matthew 26. He said that my blood that I'm going to shed for you is going to put sin in remission until this covenant is fulfilled, to where I'm just going to take them away. Right now, sin is supposed to be in remission in our life. And Shaul understood it, because he says, when I would do good, evil was present with me. I could have easily tipped over. He says, I found out then that there's a law of sin within my members, and it fights against the law of Elohim. Because what he's telling, I'm still human. I'm still human. I can still sin. I don't want to sin. Shaul didn't know he was going to get the crown of righteousness till the end of his life. Because in 1 Corinthians 9 and 27, I think it is, he said, lest I've run and I did all of this, all the work that I put in, all the labor, the ministry, everything I've done, and I yet am a what? Castaway. I didn't make it. I didn't make it. That's what he said in 1 Corinthians chapter 9. So when he wrote that letter to Timothy, by then he was at the end of his life because he told him, I fought a good fight. I finished the course. I've kept the faith. Now it's laid up a crown of righteousness for me. That's not going to fade away. He knew it at the end of his life. But while he was going through his life, even on those missionaries, y'all know Paul and Peter and Jacob, Kepha, Jacob, and Yahuchanan, they butted heads. Yeah, well, when you read Galatians, you'll see it. In Galatians chapter 1, chapter 2, you'll see how they really conflicted with one another. And then you see in Kepha's writing, he says some things that Shaul wrote, man, he says, if you don't know Torah, you better leave it alone because you're going to wrestle with his writings to your own destruction. Because some people read Paul and Shaul, they read him and they think, law's over. We're in under law. We're under grace. All I have to do is believe. I can still sin. I just got to believe. I just got to believe he's going to take away. I can still do whatever I want. But I have to believe that he came, he died, and he rose from the dead. That's all I have to believe, and I'm going to make it in. And when people read Shaul's letter, that's what they think. And that's when Kepha was like, man, there's some things he wrote, man. Kepha, who walked with Yahusha now. His years of ministry, Kepha was there. He was one of the first ones he called. Kepha was the one that was asking him a lot of questions. There was times where they just went away with Yahusha and they was able to spend time with him. Kepha was there. Shaul wasn't there. So that's why Kepha said, man, there's some stuff that Paul writes. I don't know, y'all. He says, if you don't know Torah, you're going to wrestle with his writings to your own destruction. And I have my ideals on that. And one day, because I might bring out what I'm thinking when it comes to Shaul and his life, because you can't go against what Yahusha said. And if it appears that you're going against him, either I don't have an understanding, I got to try to understand this thing, because you can't go against. He lived, he died, he rose from the dead, and he's not speaking anymore. So what he lived is what's before us as an example. And then you have some people say, well, you don't have to do that. If Yahusha was here today, he would know the season that we're in. This is a time for atonement. And he would keep this feast. He would keep the feast. And then coming after that, we have tabernacle. And we're gonna deal more with tabernacle. But for this is my covenant unto them when I shall take away their sins. Now this covenant comes if you make it. If you make it. And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to make it in. If you make it in, then you'll be under that covenant to where he's going to take away your sins. He's not even going to remember them anymore. That's where we want to be. We don't want him to remember all of our sins. I want to be covered and atoned. I want to be covered by him and atoned by him, because I want to make it to this right here. Notice now what Paul's saying here, what Shaul is saying here. This is a future event. This is a future event. Notice when he says the fullness of the Gentiles come in, then all Yasharal shall be saved, as it is written, there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away ungodliness from Jacob. For this is my covenant unto them when I shall take away their sins. That's a future prophecy. That wasn't back in that day. That's a future prophecy, because this was prophesied in the Old Testament. And one place, let's go back to the atoning. And I want to finish up here in Leviticus chapter 17. And I'm going to read Leviticus 17, 11, 12, 13, and 14, and then we'll be done. We'll be done. We'll be ready to finish it up. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make what? An atonement for the souls, for your souls. So when he put it upon the altar, this was atoning for the altar. Our altar should be protected through the atoning blood of Yahusha, to where we shouldn't allow. That's why because I wasn't going to say this, but popped in my head, the altar had to be atoned for because there was a Hebrew who had a Midianite woman that took this woman on the steps of the temple right before the altar. I mean, you have to go up into the tabernacle. Took her right there and was having sex with her right there. And Phineas was hot. And you know what the Most High Yah says? He's got righteous indignation. Now, the indignation that I had, what was it, Monday or Tuesday? That wasn't righteous indignation, because I'm not appointed unto wrath. But he had righteous indignation. He says, how could you do that on the steps of the tabernacle, leading into the tabernacle and then into the holies of holies? I mean, because you go through the tabernacle, then you have the holies of holies. And you're going to do that here? He ran to his tent, got his javelin. When he came back, they had already left and went in their tent. And they were still busy. And he stuck that javelin through and killed both of them at the same time. That's why you know they were still busy. And Most High Yah says, Phineas, righteous indignation. He won't, in his bloodline, in his seed, he'll always have somebody, which he was a Levite, he'll always have somebody serving him. So the altar had to be atoned for. And we read that, right, in the 16th chapter. It was the sanctuary, it was the tabernacle, it was the altar, it was the priest, and it was all the people. All of them had to be atoned for all of their sins. If you look up atonement, and I'm going to call this up real quick, atonement, and it's Hebrew, H3722, and in our, to use it in the context, in the ancient Hebrew lexicon Bible, we have to go down to 2283 and V. So that's the context. But the root word means to cover a lid. Cover a lid. When you put a lid on something, I mean, you put a lid on it so that nothing leaks out of it. So, you know, I want to stop it. Atonement. So let's go down to V, and V is right here. And it's Kippur, or Yom Kippur. Kippur. It's Kippur. So Kippur means to cover. Atonement, to purge, reconcile, forgive, purge, pacify, mercy, cleanse, disannul, appease, put, pardon, pitch. So you can use this Kippur for these different adjectives. But it means to purge and reconcile, to forgive and purge. Now, I was looking at the atonement in the New Testament, where we read in Romans 5 and 11. And if you look up that word in the Greek, that atonement means to reconcile. And they use that same word in Greek in different places, but it doesn't say atonement, it says reconcile. So he's given us the ministry of reconciliation. He's given us the ministry of reconciliation. It's the same Greek word as in Romans 5 and 11, to where it says Adonai Yahushua Mashiach is now our atonement. We have received atonement through him. And then he gives us the ministry of reconciliation. So you mean we have the ministry to cover, and there is within us I'm going to come back here. I know my time is running out, but in Proverbs chapter 10 and verse 12, hatred stirreth up strifes, but what's going to cover sins? Love. Love is going to cover. Love covereth all sins. So your love can atone for the sins. That's why we have to have charity. Well, Shaul knew it. Remember in 1 Corinthians 13 chapter? What did he say? Of these three? Charity, and that's love. He says the greatest of these three, which was faith, hope, and charity. And he says the greatest of these is charity. So that's why I have to have love down in my ruach, in my heart. I have to have it. Because it's gonna atone even for my own self. It's going to help me atone. It's going to atone for others. When you know somebody's got an ought against you, and it's nothing you can do to appease that ought. You can go out of your way. You can feed them. You can house them. You can find them. You can do what? Give you the shirt off your back. Give them your car, the key. You can, whatever. But there's things you can't atone for in somebody else. So you just have to love them. Well, I'm still going to love you. Don't mean I ain't going to talk about you, though. but I'm going to love you. There's some things that has to be spoken to, because he told his prophets, he says, I want you to cry loud. He said, cry loud, lift up your voice like a trumpet, and show my people their transgressions and the house of Jacob their sins. So sometimes you got to cry out. But because I cry out, don't mean I don't love them. Doesn't mean that. Because I know love is going to cover sins. I know it is. And that's why I have to be charitable. And Shaul understood it. He says, man, if you don't have charity, he says you could sing like a mockingbird. But if you don't have no charity, he says you could be a prince of preachers. But, I mean, I'm kind of paraphrasing it, but he talked about prophesying and everything. But if you don't have charity, he said it don't even mean anything. It don't mean anything because he understood what charity was. And so sometimes with charity, when you have to go out of your way, you have to love when you don't want to love. I have to love, and Yahusha says you got to love your enemies. Now that's hard. That's hard. Because we all know, especially if you've got beef with somebody, oh man, it's hard to love. When you have an adversary and you know it's your adversary, I mean, it's announced. I'm against you. And you got to love them anyway. That's what Yahusha did. Yahusha loved that criminal. What criminal? He called Judas, and it's Yehuda Iscariot, he called him my friend. Somebody was going to betray him. He knew he was going to be betrayed. And he knew who he was going to be betrayed by. But he called him his friend. And it even says, how could somebody lay down their life for a friend? And it's because of love. Love will cause you to lay down your life for a friend. So Leviticus, where were we at? 17, 11. Okay. For the life of the flesh is in the blood, and I have given it to you upon the altar to make an atonement for your souls. Your nefesh. Nefesh, which is, it's not your body, it's your nefesh. In your nefesh, that's where you have your emotions, your heart, your mind. All of that is in your soul. So he makes an atonement for that. Because if I can atone for the soul, where do you think he's going? Into your ruach. He's going to get into your ruach, but he's got to atone for that soul so he can get to your ruach. For it is the blood that maketh an atonement for the soul. And that blood there is dealing with life. He had to give his life to make that atonement. Therefore I said unto the children of Yasharel, no soul of you shall eat blood, neither shall any stranger that sojourneth among you eat blood. Now, where did we hear that? That came out in the New Testament, right? Where did that come out? Acts 15. Acts 15. They told him, don't you eat nothing strangled. It gets into that in this chapter 2, I think. But don't eat nothing strangled, and no blood, and no animals offered up to idols. And y'all did it, because I did too. Until the last, about 4 or 5 years now, I escaped. Because I wasn't eating no bird that was offered up to an idol. Because y'all do it every Thanksgiving. And you say, ain't nothing wrong with eating a turkey on that day. When you go to, and they put it up on the White House, where they have, and you know what? They have a turkey that they use as almost like a scapegoat. Don't they? Pardon the turkey. Trying to be like us.
Wrong day, wrong
Trying to be like us, and they do it every year, and we're so senile because we can't see it until he pulls off the covers, until he exposes it. Because everybody that eats that turkey on that day is eating unto an idol. And that's what they warn us. Don't eat nothing unto no idol now. He says, even strangle. Huh? Yeah, I mean, for the last 4 or 5 years in my house, we just sat down to a regular meal. I sat down to a regular meal. I'm not getting into that. It's a celebration. I was reading an article out of CNN where the Europeans, when they came over here, they slaughtered so many people. They said it changed the climate. And you know what changed the climate? The blood. Thank you. I was going to say, where's the life at? The life is in the blood. And all of that blood that they spilled and that life, we go back to the garden, and Yahuwah says, what have you done? Talking to Cain. And he says, am I my brother's keeper? What did he say after that? His blood is what? Crying out. You know where else we see that? In Revelation. In Revelation, it talks about those souls whose life is crying out, how long, Abba, until you revenge us, avenge us? It's in Revelation. They crying out to him. These folks slaughtered us. When are you going to avenge our blood? They're crying out now. Everything's about to change, y'all. I mean, we're in that season. You're going to see some great changes. I mean, you're going to see this economy fall, and we're trying to prepare ourselves now. And I don't want to hear them steeplechasers. I don't want to hear them because they're deceivers. Because they'll tell you, oh, you don't have to worry about it because we're going to be out of here. Not knowing that the first resurrection, when there is a resurrection, the ones that's coming up in the resurrections are those who gave up their head during what? During the tribulation period. There ain't going to be no catching away of folks before tribulation. We got to go through tribulation. And so they use that verse in Hebrews, well, he has not appointed us unto wrath. That's your personal wrath. Like he didn't appoint me under. I was hot, y'all. I don't know, y'all, maybe road rage. I get upset sometimes in road rage. I mean, that it hit me and he had to bring it out. I was like, boom, man. Yeah. He said, you ain't appointed under wrath. Why are you doing that? You should be over that by now. You've been around here too long. Somebody can do that. Just let them do it. And we used to sing that song years ago. Oh, this is an old song now. Let the church roll on, roll on. Y'all don't remember that? You remember that? You know, yeah, we used to sing that song, let the church roll on. So I should have just been able to just roll on. Just like they say, water off a duck's back. Why you get upset about that? Yeah, I mean, why you get, I hugged my horn at him. I was like, and I seen him, man, I could break it. No, I can't do that. I'm getting too old now. Maybe if I was Devin's age now, all his muscles, I might be able to do something. Yeah.
I feel for you on that one. And I also, when that feeling comes up in me, I think about, but if I do this, the other guy might have a gun and he may be
Yep. So this preaching and doctrine that they're still doing now, that you're going to be taken out of here before the tribulation, is an erroneous doctrine. It reminds me of Jeremiah 23, where he says, I have not sent these men, yet they ran. I have not spoken unto them, but they're still what? Prophesying. They still prophesying. They still preaching. I ain't spoken unto them, because you can see in Torah, that ain't going to happen. The first resurrection are those, the ones who are going to be in the first resurrection are those who gave up their heads during tribulation. Now, what I think is that when Yasharal is gathered to leave this country, you got a lot of folks that are going to stay. They're going to stay. And you know what they're going to say? I'm going to wait for the rapture. That's what they're going to say. And so when they see the government just take complete control and you can't buy or sell unless you have their mark, then they're going to go, uh-oh, I think we messed up. And some of them are going to know the only way I'm going to make it in now, I ain't taking the mark, so the only way I make it in now, because they're going to tell you, you either take our mark or we're going to take your life. We're going to kill you. And then they're going to realize, man, I should have left. I should have left. Because I still want to, I'm still studying, meditating on the 10 virgins in Matthew 25. You had the 5 wise and the 5 foolish. And so it says, you know what it says? When the bridegroom came, what were they supposed to do? They were supposed to have oil and have their lamps trimmed and burning bright. Right? And you had some that didn't have no oil in their lamp. Because you got some folks that's so emotional. That ain't dealing with the Ruach. That's not the anointing. Yeah, they're just emotional. So it says, okay, now it's time to do what? When the bridegroom come, what did they say? Wake up, and you had to do what? Trim your lamps and do what? Okay, we better go there real quick. I'm not going to be able to finish this up tonight. There you go. There you go. Matthew 25. Matthew 25. And I'm going to try to find that verse. It's verse number 6. And at midnight, the cry was made, behold, the bridegroom cometh. And then what does he say? Go! Go ye out, get out, if you want to meet him. He ain't, I'm coming and snatching him. No, he says, at midnight, here it comes now. The bridegroom cometh. So you better get up and you better go. It says, go out to meet him. And so you're going to have a lot of people, almost like it says, the foolish ones, we can't go out. We ain't got no oil. We can't see. And the reason why they can't see and they ain't got no oil is because they don't want Torah. They preach against Torah all their lives. In, man, I don't have enough time. In Proverbs, what is it, the 20th chapter? We were supposed to read this today, right? Because today is the 20th. It's in the 23rd. Yeah, that's what I was looking at. I wanted to bring this out earlier today. I just couldn't call it up, but the spirit of man is the candle of Yahuwah. And what does that Ruach do? And this is why you have to have communion with him. What does the Ruach do? Your spirit, what does it do? All the inward parts. Your Ruach does that. So that's where you have to have that communion. I wanted to bring that out earlier. But I think it's, is it Proverbs 23? That's the whole landmark. I got too much on my mind now. For thy word is a lamp and thy law is light. That's anyway. That it says thy word is the lamp. Is it 6:23? Is that it? Yeah, there it is. That's what I was looking for. Proverbs 6:23. For the commandment is a lamp and the law is light. So when it was time to go out to meet them, their lamps had gone out and they had no oil to light it back up again. They didn't have the Torah. They didn't have Torah. They were against Torah. The ones who were foolish are the ones who are preaching against Torah. You don't need Torah. You don't need the law, the commandments. You don't need that. Those who speak against it, it says here in Isaiah chapter 8 and verse number 20, to the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, it's because of what? They don't have the light. They don't have the light. If you cannot preach Torah, if you cannot preach and teach the law and testimony, it's because you don't have the light. There's no light in you. So everybody that is going against Torah, I don't know why y'all call it Torah. It's just the Hebrew word for his instructions. Isn't this book, what do we call it? Bible. It's the basic what? Instructions before leaving earth. The Bible, basic instructions before leaving earth. Torah is his instructions. These are my instructions. I'm sure he says that if you're not to the law, to the testament, it's because you have no light. You don't have no light. So when you look at the foolish virgins, it says their lamp went out, their lights went out. Every first day of the week, when those people get up in those churches and speak against Torah, it's because they don't have no light in them. They don't have no light. Now, this is Torah that we're reading. It's not something that I made up. I'm not talking about a book that I made up. This is Torah that is speaking.
What about this verse that the people that walked in darkness have seen a great light? That's right there in Isaiah 2. They dwell in the land of the shadow of death. So they walked in darkness and they have seen a great light.
And they shall look unto the earth and behold trouble and darkness, dimness. And where's that at?
9 and 2.
Oh, okay. The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them have the light shine. So who is he talking about there? Israel. And who's seen that light? People who are in darkness and they seen that light. Because it was brought out in the Gospels in a parable. Yeah, because he brings this out because it was prophesied that those who were in darkness have seen the great light. And that was dealing with Yasharal when he came unto his own, and his own received him not, because they were still in darkness as a nation. You still had people within that nation that were blameless, living right and everything. But as a nation, because if you look at Israel, Yasharal, as a nation now, they're walking in darkness. Now, you do have some within that nation that are walking in light. But I'm talking about as a nation. You have some in that nation that's walking in light, but as a nation, Israel is blinded. They're in darkness, but he's waking people up now. But this here, Isaiah 9:2, is dealing with when the light came into Yasharal. They were in great darkness, and then here comes the light. And upon the shadow of death, upon them have the light shined. And so at the end of his ministry, where did he go to preach? After his ministry and his death, where did he go to preach? Remember it says that? He preached unto the in prison. Yeah. Yeah, those who were in death and in prison. He went to preach unto them. So everybody heard and everybody seen him. Those who were alive and living, and then those who had perished before him. He went to preach to the souls in prison. And somebody can look that up. I think it's in Paul, one of Paul's letters that he wrote, I think. But somebody can look that up. Where it says, so the people who are walking in darkness, those are upon land, those who are in the shadow of death, they have seen that great light as well. Now I want to finish up in Leviticus 17. Where we were. I want to finish up there. Therefore I said, and this is Leviticus 17:12, therefore I said unto the children of Yasharal, no soul of you shall eat blood, neither shall any stranger that sojourneth among you eat blood. And whatsoever man there be of the children of Yasharal, or of the strangers that sojourn among you, because there's always strangers within Yasharal, which hunteth and catcheth any beast or fowl that may be eaten, he shall even pour out the blood thereof and cover it with dust. In verse number 14, for it is the life of all flesh. The blood of it is the life thereof. Therefore I said unto the children of Yasharal, ye shall eat the blood of no manner of flesh, for the life of all flesh is in the blood thereof. Whosoever eateth it is going to be cut off. They're going to be cut off. They're not going to make the kingdom. And this is just one thing that the apostles told those who were coming into Yasharal. He said, abstain from meat offered to idols, strangled, from blood, and from fornication. That's what he told them. Let's do this first. Because he said they have in every synagogue Moses that is preached when? On the Shabbat. So every Shabbat you go into the synagogue to hear the teaching. We're not going to get, the apostles didn't get into all the teaching there. He said, go into the synagogue on the Shabbat and you'll get more of the teaching. Right now, don't eat no blood, don't drink no blood, nothing strangled, nothing offered to idols. Stay away from sexual immorality. Stay away from that. That's what he was dealing with. He says, then you're going to go to the synagogue on the Shabbat and you'll hear the rest of the story. Who used to say that? Now the rest of the story. Yeah, now the rest of the story. So they were going to hear the rest of it, when they go into the synagogue on the Shabbat. That's why when you go into the synagogue on the Shabbat, you should hear the teaching of Moshe. Because in Matthew 23, Yahusha says they sit in Moses' seat. And the only time they sat in Moses' seat, because that's when they teach the Torah, the only time they did that was on the Shabbat. So he says they sit in Moses' seat, do what they teach, but don't do as they do. Because our righteousness has to be better. Because they spoke it, but they didn't live it. So whatever I'm speaking, I have to live. He even brings that out. You can't say, stay away from sin, if you're sinning. You can't teach that. You can't teach Torah if you're not living Torah. You can't teach it. So with that, we're going to finish up. It's 9 o'clock. I thank you for coming in. All that are here, continue our fasting and praying. We're coming up to Torah, coming up to Shabbat. This Shabbat, we're going to have our normal Shabbat service, and then we'll come down here and feast. We'll come down here and feast after our Shabbat service on this Shabbat, and then going up to the next day, the first day of the week, at 6 a.m., we'll pick up our fast then. So we're fasting. So how does that look? Okay, so we eat our meal on Friday, and then we eat again when we come into the Shabbat service. What we normally do. This, I'm still learning about that, but I heard the teaching where the Shabbat you shouldn't fast. Shouldn't fast on the Shabbat. Yeah. Right. So yeah. So we'll eat our meal on Friday like we normally do. Until Shabbat, after Shabbat. Up until our service and then we'll eat after our service, which is about what time?
Well, it depends on how you feel.
So after we have our Shabbat service, we'll come down here and so this Shabbat is going to be nothing different than what we normally do. We'll come down here, we'll feast on the Shabbat like we normally do after the teaching, after the service, and we'll come down here and feast. So make sure we have, everybody brings something. I see the chats going on, and sometimes I see how humorous it is, but just make sure we all have something to bring on this Shabbat. So after the teaching, we'll have our normal service. After teaching, we'll come down here and we'll eat our Shabbat meal. And then our fast will pick up Sunday morning at 6. So what does that mean? Well, the rest of the Shabbat day, and into, we're not going to fast until 6 a.m. on Sunday, and then we'll have our meal on Sunday evening, and then we're going to fast until the Day of Atonement at the end of that service. So that service kicks off at 5 o'clock here. We're going to be in the Zoom room. We have Kingdom Life Assembly coming into the Zoom room, into our Zoom room. Also, assemblies from around the country, people from around the country, I should say. Other people from around the country are coming into our Zoom room on the Day of Atonement, which is the 25th. So we're going to kick it off and start it at 5 o'clock. We're going to open up with praise and worship, and then we're going to have the teaching of Torah, teaching, and then in that teaching, you're going to hear about the sins of Yasharal, and the need for atonement, because real quick, the need for atonement, and I know I said I was finished, but real quick, if you let me, in Yakazakal, which is Ezekiel 37 and verse number 26, and this is why the sanctuary and the tabernacle and the people have to be atoned for. Moreover, will I make a covenant of peace with them. It shall be an everlasting covenant with them, and I will place them and multiply them, and will set my sanctuary. Where is he going to set his sanctuary? In the midst of them. For how long? Forevermore. And this is a future prophecy. So his sanctuary is going to be in the midst of Yasharal. That's why it has to be atoned for. That's why we read, I'm atoned for the sanctuary. I'm atoned for the tabernacle. I'm atoned for the altar. I'm atoned the priest. I'm atoned the people, all of them, because that's where he's going to take up his habitation. My tabernacle also shall be with them. Yea, I will be their Elohim, and they shall be my people. And the heathen shall know that I, Yahuwah, do sanctify Yasharel, when my sanctuary shall be in the midst of them forevermore. So that's why he has to atone for us. He has to cleanse. He has to reconcile, because he's going to take up habitation. He's not going to habitate with a bunch of sinners. No, that's why he's atoning for it. The gravity of this is the high priest had to atone for his own self with a bullock, and the blood of with his own self, and the altar, and he had to do that before he could even go into the holies of holies and atone for the people. And if he didn't do it right, what was going to happen? He died. He died. That's why they put bells around the hem of his garment. And they had a rope and a hook, because if they didn't hear those bells ringing, we got to hook him and bring him out, because they couldn't go in the holies of holies. They couldn't go in the holy. So they had to do it right. Everything has to be done decent and order, because he's going to take up habitation, and he's not going to dwell. You a fornicator, he's not going to dwell with you. How do I know? Because it says it in 1 Corinthians chapter 6. It says it in Galatians chapter 5, and we got to get into all of that. I thought I might introduce it today, but I don't have time. But it does talk about what you have to get rid of, because in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, it says no fornicators going where? In the kingdom. You ain't getting in. You ain't getting in. Oh, we better. I think we know. Somebody better tell me. I know y'all closed your books. I know y'all closed. I thought he was done. I know. I'm done. All right. My Isha, she probably be telling me. My Isha, Maklaya, Sharira. Come on now, you got to finish. Okay, let's do this. Know ye not that the unrighteous shall not inherit the kingdom of Elohim? Be not deceived. Who else is not going to inherit? Fornicators, idolaters, adulterers, effeminate, abusers of themselves with mankind, thieves, covetous, drunkards, revilers, nor extortioners shall inherit the kingdom of Elohim. So those people won't get in. They're not going to get in. So because I want to look at some, and we'll go over this more. We'll go over this more, because we got Shabbat coming up. We'll go over this more. But it ain't me saying that. Don't get mad at me. I didn't write the book. That's what he said, because he's going to take up a habitation with a holy nation. People whose sins, they've been atoned for, and then the covenant where he takes them away. That's where he's taking up his habitation. And people like this, not getting in. Not getting in. And so we'll look at Galatians 5 as well, but I'm done for tonight. But I hope I explained it. We'll be back here on the Shabbat. It's a normal Shabbat. We'll feast at the end of Shabbat. We'll pick up our fast at 6 a.m. on the first day of the week, Sunday morning, first day of the week. And then we'll eat our meal Sunday evening. And then we'll eat our meal again on Monday after I'll tell you, I'm going to finish up here. So we thank everybody for coming in, those who are in Facebook and YouTube. And I would say pick up the daily bread that I'm putting out there, Facebook and YouTube, and comment and like it. Adaya. I'll get it right. Because my Isha, it's Maklaya. Shira. And so, any questions, comments, anything? We're going to finish up. Thank you for being a part of this. And we're going to see you again on the Shabbat.